Have you ever wondered why some people attract wealth effortlessly while others fight endlessly just to survive? Have you ever looked upon a man whose hands seemed scarcely to labor and yet whose barns were full, and then upon another who toiled from dawn to dusk and could not gather enough? I asked myself that very question in my earliest years of study, and I can tell you now it was the doorway through which I stepped into a higher order of understanding. For a long time I believed, as many do, that money was merely a matter of figures, of ledgers and wages, of chance connections and fortunate wins. I believed it was earned by the sweat of one's brow alone, by the exactness of one's calculations, by hard bargains struck in crowded rooms. But life, when observed with a quiet mind and a listening heart, reveals a truer law. Money is not merely matter. Money is energy. Wealth is not a trick of arithmetic, nor the caprice of luck. Wealth is a reflection of inner vibration, of the tone of a man's thought, the faith in his spirit, and the definiteness with which he directs himself. I learned this not by hearsay, but by watching the world pour itself into the lives of those who had first prepared a place for it within. There are men who carry poverty in their faces, though they stand at the gates of opportunity. There are others who carry a secret music within them, and wherever they go, doors swing open. The difference is not fortune, it is frequency. The difference is not accident, it is alignment. A mind tuned to fear calls in shortage the way a bell calls worshipers to chapel. A mind tuned to confidence and calm expectation invites supply with equal certainty, for the universe is forever echoing the note we sustain. You may ask, but how, Mr. Hill, can a thought attract a coin? How can an inward feeling draw food to the table and a roof to the family? I shall answer you plainly. The unseen rules the seen. In every enterprise I have witnessed, the plans that prospered were conceived first as living images in the mind, bathed in the warmth of belief, held steady by decision, and advanced by persistent action. What we hold within becomes the mold into which Providence pours her material. If you have been taught to bow before circumstances, raise your head. If you have been trained to treat money as a stingy master, revise the arrangement at once. For money is a faithful servant, and it hastens toward those who command it with purpose and direct it with integrity. Think of wealth as the river and your mind as the banks. Where there are banks, clear, directed, confident, the river flows. Where the banks are broken, fearful, doubtful, wandering, the water disperses into a helpless, thirsty ground. I do not come to persuade you with ornament or idle promise. I come as a friend, as a mentor, as one who has gathered the testimonies of great industrialists, inventors, builders, and quietly heroic men and women who proved a single truth, that the human mind, harmonized with a definite purpose and a spirit of faith, becomes an instrument through which abundance must answer. So let us begin. You and I, right where you are seated. Breathe once more. Allow the noise of hurry to fall away like dust from a traveling coat. Give me your attention and your consent to be guided. In the next 30 minutes, you will remember what your soul has always known, that abundance has always lived within you. I will show you how to attune your thoughts, to set your inner instrument to the pitch of prosperity, and to walk with the quiet confidence of a man who has found the spring at the very root of the hill. This is not trickery. This is not mere cheer. It is law. Law as certain as the rising of the sun. When your thought is definite, when your decision is honest, when your feeling is governed by gratitude instead of fear, the world cannot help but rearrange itself upon your path. You shall learn to carry the wealth state within you, so that wherever you go, wealth recognizes its own and comes home. Now, let us open the door together. Step out of the old idea that money is only numbers and toil. Step into the living recognition that money is energy, and that you, by the dignity of your thought and the discipline of your spirit, may call that energy to you in rightful measure. There is a poverty far greater than the absence of coins in a purse. It is the poverty of thought, silent, invisible, and yet more destructive than any famine known to man. I have seen it in the eyes of workers who rise before dawn and return long after sunset, their hearts weary and their minds convinced that life has already measured their portion. I have seen it in merchants, in clerks, even in men of learning, an unseen resignation that whispers, "This is all I can have. This is all I am worth." That voice, my friend, is the true enemy of wealth. It does not shout, it does not storm, it whispers. And because it whispers from within, most never recognize it as an intruder. It hides beneath modesty, beneath duty, beneath the language of caution and prudence, but its nature is always the same: fear. Fear that there is not enough. Fear that one is unworthy. Fear that if fortune comes, it will not stay. I call it the silent poverty of thought. Fear of poverty has destroyed more men than all the plagues of history combined. It robs a man of his initiative. It paralyzes decision. It blinds his imagination. And it convinces him that he must wait for life to improve before daring to think abundantly. But the law of life runs in the opposite direction. Life improves only when one dares to think abundantly first. You cannot attract the sun while hiding underground. You cannot receive wealth while clinging to the identity of one who is poor. When a man seeks money out of desperation, he sets up a vibration of lack that repels the very thing he desires. He becomes like a magnet turned the wrong way. He pushes away what he tries to pull near. I learned this in the company of great men, men who had once been penniless, but who had discovered the alchemy of thought. Andrew Carnegie told me once, "No fortune can stay long with a man who believes he must fight for every penny." He said this with a smile, for he knew that true riches are not conquered, they are courted. They come not through struggle, but through understanding. Yet the great tragedy is that most people chase wealth from fear, not from creation. They labor not because they are inspired, but because they are terrified. They seek to escape scarcity instead of advancing toward abundance. In doing so, they create a pattern of resistance. Their every thought of "I must have more" secretly declares, "I do not yet have enough," and the universe, always obedient, reflects back precisely that condition. This is the hypnosis of the masses. It is an invisible chain forged by inherited beliefs, the echo of parents, teachers, neighbors who said, "Money is hard to come by," or "Good people never become rich." These phrases, repeated without question, become laws in the subconscious, and the mind, loyal even to its own limitations, fulfills them perfectly. A man who believes that wealth is evil will unconsciously flee from every opportunity that might bring it. A woman who believes she is unworthy of comfort will find herself forever surrounded by circumstances that confirm her unworthiness. Thought is the architect, and life, obediently, builds according to its plan. When I traveled through towns and cities, gathering the stories that would become Think and Grow Rich, I found this pattern everywhere. A farmer would speak of bad seasons, yet his soil was rich and his hands capable. A clerk would sigh over low wages, yet he had never dared to imagine himself as the owner of the business. A young student would dream of invention, but confess, "I am not brilliant enough." These confessions are the seeds of failure, for they carry within them the very vibration that prevents success. The truth is simple, though seldom accepted. The enemy is not circumstance, but consciousness. Poverty begins not in the pocket, but in the mind. It is a condition of vibration, a note of dissonance that repels harmony, opportunity, and flow. To those who protest, "But I must eat, I must pay my debts," I say this: your needs are real, but your fear of them multiplies their power. Face them with calm expectancy, and they will dissolve. Run from them with panic, and they will grow teeth. Fear feeds the very condition it dreads. When the mind is steady and the spirit confident, even a small coin seems to multiply. When the mind trembles and the heart doubts, even great fortunes vanish like mist. The outer follows the inner as faithfully as the shadow follows the body. You have been taught to worship the visible and ignore the invisible, yet the visible world is but the echo. The invisible, your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, is the sound that creates the echo. If you wish to change the sound, you must first change the instrument. Do not despise yourself for having lived in fear. Every man has walked through that valley. But understand that remaining there is a choice. The moment you decide to think differently, the moment you dare to feel worthy of abundance, you have already broken the first link of the chain. You may still see evidence of scarcity around you, but do not let it deceive you. The field remains barren until the seed is planted. Yet the farmer does not doubt the harvest simply because he cannot yet see the grain. He trusts the law, and by trusting, he works. So I ask you, as one soul speaking to another, will you continue to chase shadows, hoping that wealth will appear when fear has finished with you? Or will you finally become the light that attracts all things, the calm, confident, radiant spirit to which abundance must respond? For as surely as night yields to dawn, when a man conquers the poverty of thought, the riches of the world rush to fill the space his fear once occupied. There is a law so simple, so constant, that it governs both the planets in their courses and the pulse within your wrist. It is the law of vibration. Everything that exists, every leaf, every stone, every star, every thought, moves, vibrates, and lives according to this law. Nothing rests, and man, though he seldom realizes it, is not exempt from this order. His mind, his emotions, his very spirit are instruments constantly sending forth vibrations that return to him in kind. I have said before, and I will say it again, whatever you think and feel consistently, you will attract. A man whose dominant emotion is fear attracts situations that justify his fear. A woman whose heart burns with envy finds reasons to envy more. A mind clouded with worry cannot receive inspiration, for its frequency is too disordered to catch the finer currents of intelligence that flow from infinite mind. But one who holds peace in his heart and gratitude in his thoughts becomes like a well-tuned string. He begins to resonate with the melody of abundance. This, I discovered, is the secret bridge between desire and manifestation, inner alignment. You may desire all you wish, but until your emotions and your beliefs vibrate in harmony with that desire, you are like a musician striking the wrong note and wondering why the song will not play. When I first began to study successful men, I looked for outer patterns, habits, schedules, investments, and methods. But the deeper I went, the clearer it became what united them was not their work, but their way of being. They did not simply act. They vibrated at a certain frequency of thought, calm, sure, unwavering. Thomas Edison, for instance, faced thousands of failed experiments while seeking the proper filament for his lamp. To the ordinary observer, those failures were evidence of waste. To Edison, they were progress, each one a necessary vibration of discovery. His faith was not loud or emotional. It was steady, rhythmic, like the beating of his heart, and that rhythm harmonized with the very law of creation until light itself had no choice but to answer. Henry Ford possessed the same inner alignment. Before the first automobile rolled from his factory, before his name was known beyond the farms of Michigan, Ford felt himself as an instrument of a great idea. Others laughed at his vision of an engine for every family. They mocked. They predicted ruin. But within Ford, there was no discord. He was already vibrating with the feeling of success. He had attuned his mind to the frequency of belief. And belief, pure, definite, and fearless, is the very magnet that draws resources and men into cooperation. And then there was a craftsman I once met in a small village, a simple man by worldly standards. His workshop smelled of pine and varnish, and his hands bore the marks of honest labor. He had no great fortune, no patents, no benefactors. Yet every piece of furniture he made seemed to carry a quiet beauty that drew customers from distant towns. When I asked his secret, he smiled and said, "Mr. Hill, I never touch the wood until I am in a good mood. If my mind is restless, the table will wobble. But if my mind is calm and thankful, the table will stand 100 years." That man understood vibration better than most scholars. He knew that energy, not effort, determines the outcome. You see, wealth does not respond to words alone. It responds to the feeling behind the words, the vibration that emanates from the soul. You may declare, "I am wealthy," but if your heart trembles with disbelief, your vibration cancels your declaration. You may work from dawn till dusk, but if your dominant emotion is fear of losing, your vibration calls for loss. This is why two men may perform the same labor, one becoming rich while the other remains poor. It is not the labor that differs. It is the invisible atmosphere each carries. The prosperous man approaches his task with faith and expectancy, and these vibrations invite opportunities. The struggling man approaches his with worry and resentment, and these vibrations repel them. I once said that faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. But I might also say that faith is the tuning fork of prosperity. When you strike that tone within yourself, when your thought and emotion sing in unison, the universe begins to hum the same note back to you. It is not necessary to understand the mechanism. It is only necessary to live in harmony with it. The farmer does not understand the full mystery of germination, yet he trusts the soil and sows his seed. So must you sow thoughts of abundance, gratitude, and purpose into the field of the mind, trusting the invisible law to bring forth the visible fruit. Do not underestimate the power of a single mood. A moment of irritation repeated daily becomes a vibration that shapes destiny. A moment of calm assurance repeated daily becomes a vibration that builds empires. The difference between the beggar and the builder is not opportunity but energy, the steady inner music each has learned to play. To live by this law, you must learn to govern the tone of your own being. Do not let outer events dictate your inner vibration. The wise man reverses the order. He decides how he shall feel, and the world arranges itself accordingly. If you would attract wealth, begin by cultivating the vibration of wealth. Peace, gratitude, generosity, confidence, not as pretense, but as practice. When your inner world grows rich, your outer world must follow. It is inevitable, for law cannot be broken. It can only be obeyed or ignored. So I ask you now, what is the prevailing vibration of your life? Is it scarcity, born of worry and doubt, or is it abundance, born of faith and purpose? Choose carefully, for the frequency you sustain is the invitation you send to the universe, and the universe, faithful to its design, always attends the call. There is a law in nature that mirrors the one governing the mind, the law of motion. Everything that lives must move. The river must flow. The wind must travel. The heart must beat. When motion ceases, decay begins. And so it is with wealth. Wealth responds to movement, not stagnation. In my years of study, I observed this truth again and again. Money, like blood in the body, must circulate to remain alive. It cannot flow into a vessel that is blocked by doubt, fear, or hesitation. Like a river, money cannot flow into a blocked channel. When a man delays, postpones, and questions the wisdom of his own inspired ideas, he dams the very stream that would have nourished him. Faith, therefore, is not merely belief. It is motion, it is action born from inner conviction. Every successful man I ever met possessed this quality. He moved even when the way ahead was not yet lit. He trusted that the next stone would appear beneath his step once the first was taken. Those who waited for certainty, for perfect conditions, for a guarantee of success before moving, were the ones who remained forever where they stood. When Henry Ford first conceived the idea of the moving assembly line, he had no assurance it would work. The engineers doubted him. Investors scoffed, yet Ford acted. He set machinery in motion before the skeptics could calculate its failure. And once that motion began, it gathered its own momentum. What began as a fragile idea became an unstoppable force that revolutionized industry. Movement itself breeds power. The smallest effort, when performed with faith, sets in motion unseen forces that conspire to assist you. There is a providence that moves when you do. The universe cannot steer a man who will not leave the shore. But understand this clearly. It is not frantic action that draws wealth, but purposeful motion. There is a vast difference between activity and advancement. Many men labor feverishly, but their energy is scattered. Their motion is circular, not progressive. True momentum arises from calm, deliberate steps taken in alignment with one's definite chief aim. When you act with faith, even in uncertainty, you establish a rhythm that harmonizes with opportunity. The doors open not because you force them, but because motion creates attraction. It is as if the universe recognizes your sincerity and meets you halfway. I recall a young inventor I once mentored, a quiet fellow named Samuel, full of ideas but plagued by hesitation. He would spend months perfecting his sketches, revising, improving, never daring to begin the construction of his device. One day I said to him, "Samuel, the world does not reward those who prepare forever. It rewards those who begin." He looked startled, but I could see the truth land upon him. The next morning, he built the first rough model. It failed, of course, as all first attempts do, but in that failure, he discovered the flaw that thought alone could never have revealed. Within a year, his design was complete and profitable. When I asked what had changed, he replied simply, I stopped waiting. That, my friend, is the entire secret of momentum. You must stop waiting. Do not wait for the fear to vanish. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move despite it. Do not wait for knowledge to be complete. Understanding grows through motion. Do not wait for the right mood, the right season, or the perfect time, for perfection is an illusion that keeps men idle. Move, and life will adjust to your movement. Each morning when I rise, I ask myself one question. What single step can I take today toward my purpose? Not a dozen, not 100. One. It may be a letter written, a conversation sought, a plan reviewed, or a simple moment of gratitude before work begins. But I do something, for I have learned that progress, like fire, is maintained not by grand bursts, but by steady feeding. I would have you adopt this same practice. Each day, move toward one inspired idea. No matter how small, act upon it. Do not judge its worth in advance. The act itself builds the vibration of success. You may not see its results immediately, but unseen currents will begin to shift. Each decision, each effort, sends a signal to the invisible world that says, I am ready. And when the world hears that signal enough times, it responds. I once compared the human will to a train resting in a station. To set it moving requires great energy at first. The engine strains, the wheels groan, the smoke rises. But once in motion, the same train travels miles with ease, carried by its own momentum. The mind operates in the same fashion. The first decision may feel heavy, the first action uncertain, but persist, and momentum will take command. The effort that once demanded all your strength will soon carry you effortlessly forward. Wealth loves momentum. It is drawn to those who move, for motion is the evidence of faith. Every fortune ever built began with a single movement, a letter sent, a call made, a dream committed to paper, a word spoken at the right time. It was never the grandeur of the act that mattered, but the spirit behind it. You do not need to leap. You need only to begin. Begin where you are with what you have, and let the law of motion complete the rest. Action, no matter how small, kindles the flame of destiny. So remember this. Wealth will not chase you. You must begin to move toward it, calmly, confidently, decisively. The moment you do, you awaken forces that have been asleep, waiting only for your signal. Now we approach one of the most sacred principles I have ever uncovered, the principle of autosuggestion. This law is the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious mind, between mere wishing and true creation. It is the means by which thought becomes flesh, by which desire becomes destiny. For many years, I sought to understand why two men could read the same book, attend the same lectures, work in the same trade, and yet one would rise to fortune while the other remained in want. The difference, I found, lay not in their knowledge, but in the use they made of it. The successful man had learned how to plant ideas deeply enough into his subconscious mind that they became beliefs, living forces that guided every action and attracted every circumstance required for their fulfillment. That planting is achieved through autosuggestion. Now, let us be clear. Autosuggestion is not mere repetition of words. It is not a mechanical chanting of phrases like some charm against misfortune. No, it is emotional broadcasting. It is the deliberate sending of thought, charged with feeling, into the fertile soil of the subconscious. You are not asking for money when you affirm abundance. You are commanding reality through belief. The subconscious mind does not reason, compare, or doubt. It accepts. It accepts whatever is impressed upon it with emotion, whether true or false, whether helpful or destructive. If you continually speak of lack, it believes in lack and produces it. If you continually affirm abundance with feeling, it believes in abundance and attracts it. The law is exact. Most men misuse this law unconsciously. They affirm poverty all day long by the way they think and speak. They say, I can't afford that, or I never get a chance, or it always goes wrong for me. Each statement is an order sent to the subconscious, which receives it faithfully and brings forth the evidence to match it. Thus their words become chains, and their thoughts the very walls of their prison. But once a man becomes aware of this power, he may reverse the process. He may reprogram his mind by feeding it new instructions, spoken with faith and feeling, repeated until belief replaces doubt. When I trained young businessmen years ago, I would ask them to write their chief aim on a small card and carry it always. Each morning and each night, they were to read it aloud, not casually, but with conviction, as though it were already achieved. At first, they felt foolish, but as days passed, something remarkable occurred. Their tone changed, their eyes brightened, they began to believe their own words, and when belief took root, events began to shift, fortunes grew, opportunities appeared. Men who had been timid became bold, because their subconscious had accepted a new identity. You see, repetition alone is not the magic. Emotion, words without feeling are lifeless, but when spoken with desire, gratitude, and certainty, they become charged currents of creative power. Let me show you how this works. Close your eyes if you will, and imagine that your mind is a great field. Every thought you think is a seed. The soil does not question whether the seed is wheat or thorn. It simply grows whatever is planted. Your task, then, is to choose your seeds wisely. When you repeat an affirmation, you are not convincing the world. You are convincing the soil. You are saying to your deeper self, "This is the truth I now choose to live by." And the soil, obedient as ever, begins to arrange the conditions of your life to match that truth. Now, before we proceed to our visualization, I will guide you through a brief sequence of affirmations. These are not to be read hastily, but to be felt. Speak them slowly, inwardly if you prefer, and let each word sink into the silence of your being. Pause after each phrase. Let it vibrate through you like a note through a string. The universe rewards the one who moves. I am calm. I am centered in the flow of abundance. I am not chasing wealth, I am allowing it. The same intelligence that grows the trees and moves the tides now moves through me. I am in harmony with the law of supply. Every thought of gratitude expands my prosperity. Every act of faith strengthens my foundation. I am worthy of all that life can give. Money is not my master, it is my servant. It comes to me in increasing quantities, through sources both expected and unexpected. I handle it with wisdom. I share it with joy. I multiply it with purpose. I live in the vibration of peace, gratitude, and sufficiency. I am the source from which prosperity flows. Repeat these words each day with feeling, not to beg, but to remind yourself of truth. For wealth is not something to acquire, it is something to allow. When you feel rich in thought, the world must mirror that richness. When you feel abundant in spirit, money becomes a natural extension of your vibration. The beggar within you must die before the banker. Outside you can live. Understand this well. All great achievement begins in imagination. Imagination is the workshop of the mind where you shape the blueprint of your destiny. Autosuggestion is the hammer that forges it into form. As you persist in this practice, your subconscious mind begins to change its habits of vibration. Fearful thoughts lose their power. Doubt dissolves. You will notice that new ideas come to you. Ideas that carry energy, courage, and direction. That is your inner self aligning with the higher order of abundance. It is not a miracle. It is law. The subconscious, once reprogrammed, works continuously, day and night, to manifest the pattern you have impressed upon it. It draws people, opportunities, and circumstances to fulfill your mental command. And because it is tireless, it never ceases its labor until your outer world reflects the inner belief. So tonight, when the world is quiet, sit alone for a few minutes. Close your eyes and repeat your affirmations, slowly, rhythmically, with feeling. Imagine each phrase as a command written in light upon the walls of your mind. See them glowing there, permanent and true. Say to yourself, I am not waiting for abundance. I am abundance. I am not hoping for wealth. I am wealth expressing itself through me. I am not striving to become more. I am remembering what I already am. And as you do, you will feel something shift, a calm strength rising, a quiet certainty that what you seek has already begun its journey toward you. That feeling is faith. That faith is vibration. And that vibration is the language through which the infinite responds. Now, having tuned your inner instrument, you are ready for the next step, a journey into the deepest chamber of your mind where these ideas will take root and live. Now, my friend, let us go deeper. You have listened, you have understood, but knowledge alone is not enough. We must now feel wealth, not as a concept, but as a living energy moving through you. Take a slow breath in, and as you exhale, let the weight of the day begin to fall away. Inhale again, deeply. Hold for a moment and release. Each breath draws you inward, to that quiet chamber of your being where all power begins. Feel your body resting easily wherever you sit or lie. The muscles of your face soften. The shoulders release their tension. Your hands grow light and open. Your breath becomes steady and unhurried, like a tide that knows no fear of ebb or flow. Now in your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing before a long golden corridor. The air is warm, luminous, serene. Each wall gleams faintly, as if dusted with sunlight. You take a step forward. The sound of your foot echoes softly, rich and full. You feel as though the very air is alive, each particle charged with purpose, waiting to welcome you. At the far end of this corridor lies a great doorway, and beyond it, the Temple of Wealth. This is no temple of coins or numbers. It is the dwelling place of abundance itself, pure, infinite, eternal. As you begin to walk, slow your pace. Feel the ground beneath you, smooth, radiant, solid. With each step, you leave behind one old belief. You step away from fear. You step away from doubt. You step away from every story that told you wealth belonged to others, but not to you. Halfway down the corridor, the air begins to shimmer. Out of the mist, 3 shadowy figures appear. Do not fear them. They are the remnants of your own mind, personified shapes of thought. The first calls itself scarcity. Its eyes are restless, its hands always reaching. It whispers, there is never enough, you must cling, you must fight. But as you gaze upon it, you remember what you now know. Money is not matter, it is energy, and energy is infinite. You raise your right hand, palm open, and from it shines a beam of golden light, calm, steady, unwavering. The light touches scarcity. It trembles, then softens, then dissolves into mist. You whisper, there is always enough. The second figure steps forth, shame. It lowers its head, speaking in a trembling voice. You are not worthy of wealth. You have made mistakes. You do not deserve it. But you, remembering the truth of your divine origin, step closer. You place your hand upon its shoulder and say, I am forgiven, I am learning, I am worthy, because I am part of life itself. Shame begins to fade, melting into the same warm light that surrounds you. The third figure emerges slowly. Guilt. It carries heavy chains of the past, memories of loss, of selfishness, of fear. Guilt looks at you and says, if you prosper, others will suffer. But you answer gently, when I rise, I lift others. When I am abundant, I become a giver of light. And with those words, the chains fall and guilt becomes radiant, joining the light around you. Now the corridor grows brighter. You can see the great doorway ahead, vast, carved from white marble, adorned with ancient symbols. Upon it is written in golden letters, enter as a seeker, leave as a source. You place your hand upon the door. It feels warm, alive, almost breathing. It swings open silently. You step inside. Before you lies the Temple of Wealth. The space is immense. Pillars of crystal rise high into a vaulted ceiling that seems to shimmer like a dawn sky. Golden light pours from above, not harsh, but soft and alive, like sunlight made liquid. You hear no sound, yet you sense a deep hum, the pulse of abundance itself, steady, eternal, welcoming. At the center of the temple stands a great river of light, flowing gently, endlessly. It glows with hues of gold and silver, weaving and curling like silk in water. You walk closer, feeling its warmth upon your face. This river, you realize, is the very current of prosperity, the flow of life in its purest form. Money, opportunity, inspiration, all of it are but reflections of this one infinite current. It has always been flowing. You simply forgot that it was flowing through you. You kneel beside the river, touch its surface with your fingertips. The moment you do, the light enters you, traveling up your arm, through your heart, into your mind. You feel it cleanse you, awaken you, transform you. It whispers, you are not separate from me, you are the river. You rise now, luminous, your whole being radiant. As you stand, a figure appears before you, the spirit of prosperity. It looks exactly like you, but brighter, calmer, timeless. It smiles with knowing eyes and speaks in your own voice. Welcome, traveler. You have come far to meet me, but I have always lived within you. I am your highest self, the one who knows no lack, no fear, no limit. I am the presence that has guided you through every storm, The quiet faith that whispered, try again. You thought you were seeking wealth, but wealth was seeking you, for you are its home. You feel tears of recognition. You understand now that prosperity was never outside you. It was your own energy, awaiting your permission to flow. The spirit of prosperity reaches out and places in your hands three sacred symbols. The first is a golden key. It glows softly, pulsing with warmth. This, says the spirit, is the key of belief. It opens every door you once thought closed. It unlocks opportunity, not by force, but by vibration. Whenever you doubt, hold this key in your mind, and the way will appear. The second is a flowing river, small enough to fit in your palm yet alive, swirling gently. This, says the spirit, is the symbol of circulation. It reminds you that money is meant to move, to give, to receive, to flow without fear. When you hold tight, it stagnates. When you trust, it multiplies. And finally, the Spirit places over your heart a heart of light, radiant, eternal. This, it says, is your true treasure. When you live from here, every action becomes magnetic. This heart will guide you to right people, right ideas, right fortune. Guard it, not with fear, but with love. Now the Spirit steps back, its voice resonant and calm. Repeat after me, not as words, but as truth. And you speak slowly with your whole being. I am the source. I am abundance. Money flows through me as easily as breath. I do not chase. I allow. I do not beg. I believe. I do not fear. I remember I am the living current of prosperity. With each phrase, your body glows brighter, golden light streaming from your heart, your hands, your eyes. The temple hums in resonance, as though the walls themselves are singing your truth back to you. You feel vast, limitless, at peace. The spirit of prosperity smiles again. You are ready, it says. When you return to your world, the same laws will follow you. You will find doors opening, opportunities appearing, hearts welcoming, because you will have changed the vibration from which you live. The river beside you grows even brighter now, as if reflecting your awakening. Its light rises, surrounding you, enfolding you, until you and the river are one. You float within it, weightless, timeless, perfectly calm. And as you rest within that golden current, you hear a single truth echo softly in your heart. You have never lacked anything. You only forgot who you are. Now breathe deeply once more. Feel the current moving through you, from crown to chest to fingertips. Each breath expands you, strengthens you, roots you in serenity. The temple remains, but its light begins to soften, growing transparent, as if gently merging with the world beyond. You take one last look at the pillars of crystal, the river of gold, and the radiant figure who smiles at you, yourself. Then with gratitude you bow your head and step backward through the great doors. The golden corridor greets you again, but now it feels different, lighter, more alive. You realize it was never a corridor after all. It was your own mind, once dim, now illuminated. Each step you take toward waking life carries a new vibration, calm, confident, complete. You know now that wealth is not to be found but to be expressed, that prosperity is not earned by struggle but awakened through remembrance. Take one last breath, deep, slow, and steady. Let gratitude fill your chest. And now hear these final words, softly from my heart to yours. When you open your eyes, the world will respond differently, because you are different. You have entered the temple of wealth within, and once a man has entered it, he never again walks in poverty. In my years of study and in the quiet exchanges I have shared with those who have applied these principles, I have come to know one truth beyond all others. No transformation ever happens in the world of matter before it first occurs in the realm of mind. Every story of wealth begins as a story of awakening. Let me tell you 3 such stories, each one real, each one born from the law you have just practiced within your own imagination. Sophia, the artist who remembered her worth. Sophia lived in a small studio overlooking a narrow street. Her paintings were luminous, delicate, full of emotion, but they rarely sold. She would often sit by the window, brush in hand, whispering to herself, perhaps beauty is not enough. Her heart longed for abundance, yet her thoughts clung to lack. One evening, as the sun lowered over the rooftop, she heard a lecture, Mind that spoke of the law of vibration. Something in her stirred. That night, she decided to try the visualization I had described. For 30 days, without missing a single one, she sat before her easel in silence. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and imagined herself walking through her own temple of wealth. She saw her paintings hanging in galleries, buyers smiling with tears in their eyes, thanking her for the emotion her art stirred within them. But more than that, she felt it. Each time she breathed, she whispered, "I am the source. I am abundance. My art is a channel of prosperity." At first, nothing changed, except Sophia. She began to paint differently, as though guided by unseen hands. Her brushstrokes carried joy, not desperation. Her colors glowed warmer. Within a few weeks, her studio felt alive, as if infused with invisible light. And then something extraordinary happened. A traveler passing through the city stopped by her window, drawn by the glow of a half-finished canvas. He purchased it for more money than she had ever dared ask. The next week, another sale followed, and then another. Within a month, her income had tripled. Not because she worked harder, but because her energy had changed. When she later wrote to me, she said, "I did not attract money. I became someone who could receive it. I stopped painting to survive and started painting to serve." I smiled when I read her words, for they revealed the spiritual science at work. When one creates from the vibration of joy, money becomes a natural echo of that joy. The universe mirrors the emotion you embody. Sophia had aligned her frequency with abundance, and abundance answered. David, the father who transformed fear into flow. Then there was David, a father of 3, a modest man of honest labor. Each night he would sit at his kitchen table surrounded by bills. His hands would tremble as he calculated, erased, and recalculated. His entire body carried the vibration of fear. When he first came to me, he said, "Mr. Hill, I am tired of worrying about money. I work all day, but my mind never rests." I told him something simple, something he could begin that very night. "Replace your nightly calculations with gratitude." He looked puzzled. "Gratitude?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Each time you would reach for a number, reach for a thought instead. Name aloud everything you already possess that cannot be counted in coins." That evening, David began. He sat again at his table, but this time he whispered softly, "Thank you for my children's laughter. Thank you for the bread we shared today. Thank you for this roof, this chair, this breath." He practiced this each night, adding one new thing to his list. After a week, he told me something had changed. "I sleep deeply now. I wake up calm." Within a month, his co-workers began to notice his composure. He stopped rushing, stopped fearing. His tone softened. His presence steadied. Soon after, his employer offered him a promotion without his asking. His finances improved, but more importantly, his relationship with money healed. David had discovered what few men understand. The emotion of gratitude is the highest frequency of wealth. It dissolves fear as the morning sun dissolves mist. When he replaced his vibration of anxiety with that of appreciation, he opened the channel through which prosperity could finally flow. Amira, the widow who forgave her past and freed her future, and then there was Amira, a widow who lived in a quiet village at the edge of the desert. Her husband had passed years before, leaving debts that bound her to a life of labor and grief. For years, she carried a belief inherited from generations before her: our family was not meant for wealth. We survive by endurance, not by fortune. When she heard of my teachings, she felt drawn not by curiosity, but by exhaustion. "I have tried everything else," she said. "Perhaps I will try this too." But as she began her visualization practice, she found she could not feel abundance. Her mind was heavy with bitterness toward the world, toward the past, and most of all toward herself. I told her, "Forgiveness is also currency. Until you spend it, your heart remains closed." So she began to forgive. Silently, nightly, she forgave her late husband for the debts he left. She forgave her parents for teaching her fear. She forgave herself for believing she was powerless. With each act of forgiveness, she said, "I release this weight, and I welcome new flow." One evening, as she performed her ritual beneath the dim lamp of her small home, she felt something shift, a peace she had not known since her youth settled over her. Tears came, but they were gentle, cleansing. Within weeks, strange coincidences began to occur. A neighbor offered her unused land at a fraction of its worth. An old friend reappeared, proposing they start a small business weaving carpets. Within 6 months, Amira had more than repaid her debts and was employing other widows from her village. When she wrote to me, her words were simple: "Forgiveness opened the gate. Love let the river in." I have never forgotten her story. It reminds me that the heaviest chains around one's fortune are not made of iron or circumstance. They are made of resentment. When you forgive, you do not lose power. You reclaim it. Reflections. You see, in every one of these stories, the outer change was the effect, not the cause. Sophia changed her vibration through faith and creative joy. David changed his vibration through gratitude. Amira changed hers through forgiveness. In each case, they first aligned with the energy of abundance, and only then did physical wealth begin to appear. I often say, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Each of these souls learned to become the frequency of wealth before seeing its reflection in their world. The spiritual science of prosperity is exact. When the emotion within you becomes harmonious, the conditions around you must reorganize to match it. This is not magic. It is law, divine, and immutable. If you hold fear, life will give you reasons to fear. If you hold faith, life will give you proof of that faith. If you hold gratitude, you will live within its endless return. So ask yourself, as I ask them, what vibration do I live in each day? Do I dwell upon lack, or do I speak to myself with the voice of abundance? Because the universe, my friend, does not respond to the words you say, it responds to the feeling you live in. And so I leave you with this reflection. Sophia painted beauty and became beauty. David gave thanks and became gratitude. Amira forgave and became peace, and from beauty, gratitude, and peace, wealth cannot help but grow. In their journeys, as in yours, the transformation did not begin with money. It began with memory. The memory of who they truly are, sources of abundance, channels of the infinite, reflections of divine supply. That same current flows through you now. It is waiting, patient, and eternal for you to give it permission. Will you let it flow? Because once you do, once you begin to live in that current as they did, the world cannot help but mirror your new reality. For you are no longer one who seeks wealth. You are one who creates it. Now, as we reach the stillness that follows revelation, I would have you understand something vital, something that marks the difference between a fleeting inspiration and a lasting transformation. You are no longer a beggar in the kingdom of wealth. You are its architect. The shift has already begun. The very vibrations of your being have changed. You have walked through the corridors of your own mind and stood in the temple of wealth. You have met the spirit of prosperity face to face, and you have remembered what many live a lifetime without discovering, that abundance was never a treasure to be found, but a power to be remembered. In this moment, I ask you to speak these words within yourself, quietly, but with absolute conviction. I am not waiting for wealth. I am building it with every thought, every act, every breath. For as surely as a mason lays stone upon stone, so too does the mind lay thought upon thought, and from those thoughts your future is raised. The palace of prosperity stands not in the marketplace, but in consciousness. Remember always the law that governs every achievement. Action is the true measure of faith. Faith that does not move is not faith. It is a dream unborn, but faith that takes a single step, even in uncertainty, awakens the whole universe to assist it. Now that you have realigned the vibration of your mind, you must anchor it through repetition. The subconscious mind is like wax when warm, malleable, impressionable, ready to receive form. But once the impression cools, it hardens into habit. That is why I ask you to repeat the visualization, the journey to the temple of wealth, each night for 7 nights. 7 is the number of completion, of rhythm, of natural cycles. Each repetition deepens the imprint. The images will grow clearer, the sensations stronger, the emotions more real. And as this practice continues, the subconscious will begin to accept abundance, not as a vision, but as identity. You may find small changes at first, moments of ease where once there was strain, unexpected kindness, an opportunity arriving at just the right time. Do not dismiss them as coincidence. They are confirmations. They are the first ripples of a great current beginning to move beneath the surface of your life. As you lie each night before sleep, return to that golden corridor. See again the 3 shadows, scarcity, shame, and guilt, and let them dissolve as before. Step once more into the radiant temple. Feel the river of light flowing through you. Hold the golden key in your hand. Feel its warmth. Touch the heart of light upon your chest. Let it pulse with gratitude. Then repeat softly, I am the source. I am abundance. Money flows through me as easily as breath. Do this slowly, sincerely, until you feel the truth of it vibrating in your bones. And then as you drift into sleep, trust that your subconscious will continue the work. It will rearrange thoughts, dissolve old patterns, and open channels of intuition. You may awaken with new ideas, fresh inspiration, or an unexplainable sense of calm certainty. That is the law in motion, the invisible architect, building the structure you have designed in thought. Understand this clearly. Transformation is not an act of force. It is an act of permission. You are not commanding the world. You are allowing your higher self to express its natural wealth through you. From this point forward, speak, walk, and act as the one you have seen in your visualization. Let your posture, your tone, your choices reflect the peace and certainty of one who knows he is the source. If doubt arises, and it will return to the breath, to the image of the temple, to the feeling of the river moving within you. Doubt cannot survive in the presence of repetition and belief. The more often you revisit this sacred space in your mind, the more natural it will feel, until one day, without realizing when, you will notice that the old vibration of lack is gone. You will speak differently, think differently, attract differently. The subconscious will have accepted its new command, and your world will begin to reflect it in perfect symmetry. Do not rush this process. Law works in its own rhythm, as seasons do. Trust that each night of practice strengthens the root beneath the surface. The harvest will come in due time, and when it does, it will be abundant beyond measure, for it will have grown from the soil of faith. As you continue, remember, you are no longer a seeker. You are a creator. Every thought you hold with feeling is a brushstroke upon the canvas of destiny. Every affirmation is a chisel carving new form from the marble of possibility. Every act of faith is a seed sown in the field of eternity. So let the old identity fade away like mist at dawn. The man or woman who doubted, who feared, who begged, let that self rest. In its place now stands one who knows. You are the living current of prosperity. You are the voice through which abundance speaks. You are the architect of wealth itself. And as you sleep tonight, may these words echo softly within your mind, like a gentle benediction. I build my fortune not by chance, but by choice. I walk in the rhythm of divine supply. I act in faith, and faith acts through me. Rest in that knowing. The work has begun. The law is faithful. And you, my friend, are now aligned with the infinite source of all that is good. My friend, you have already begun the transformation simply by staying with me until this moment. Do not underestimate what this means. To have listened, to have reflected, to have walked with me through the corridors of your own mind, this is not a small act. It is a declaration. It is the first unmistakable sign that the sleeping architect within you has awakened. For wealth, as I have told you, is not a reward for labor alone. It is a reflection of consciousness. The moment you begin to think differently, to feel differently, to believe differently, your life begins to shift accordingly. Even now, unseen currents have started to move in your favor, but thought without movement is a dream unfulfilled. You must now give form to what has been born within. Do not let this hour remain only as a beautiful memory. Let it become a turning point. Before this day ends, take one small but deliberate action in harmony with abundance. Write it down on a piece of paper. It need not be grand, only aligned. Perhaps it is a decision you have postponed out of fear. Perhaps it is a gesture of generosity towards someone in need. Perhaps it is an idea long kept in the shadows that you will now bring into light. Whatever it is, let it be done in the spirit of faith. Let it be your signal to the universe that you are ready to live as the source you have discovered yourself to be. When you act, even in the smallest way, the law of momentum begins to move through you. You will feel it. Confidence will grow where doubt once lived. Opportunities will arise where none seemed possible, for action, sincere and decisive, is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. I have seen this truth in every man and woman who ever rose from obscurity to greatness. The moment they acted in faith, the tide turned. It could not be otherwise. For the law of life is motion, and faith is its spark. So as you prepare to return to your world, remember this. You do not leave the temple of wealth behind. You carry it within you. It is in your breath, your thoughts, your words, your choices. Every time you speak with gratitude, every time you act with purpose, every time you choose calm over fear, you build its walls higher, you make its light shine brighter. And now, as you rise, breathe once more. deeply, steadily. Feel the calm strength of certainty filling your chest. The journey you began in imagination now continues in reality. Carry this truth with you wherever you go. You are not waiting for the right moment. You are the right moment. You are not chasing success. You are walking in its rhythm. You are not hoping for abundance. You are living as abundance itself. Let this session be the dividing line between the life that was and the life that begins now. For remember, as I have written and spoken many times before, success does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who move. Now go and move with faith. The world is already adjusting to meet you.